Hello there. Welcome to my show, Coronavirus Update by Heerak for June 25th, 2020. Today we remember the Korean War. Um, Korean War started on June 25, 1950. So it's 70-year anniversary. And Korea was almost completely occupied. If it weren't for General MacArthur, and he always sought unconditional surrender. And it was because of great commander like General Douglas MacArthur that Korea was able to survive the Korean War. So great generals make a great difference. So hopefully U.S. Army will continue to have great generals. United States history is not unique in seeing cases which are almost impossible to survive. And in the case of Alamo, actually a lot of people died. Um, and many of you probably know about the Alamo. It's a little fort, little fort that Texans guarded, and it was overrun, and eventually everybody was killed, basically. And so we say, remember the Alamo as a way to bring courage for ourselves when there are incredible odds. And in another way, we think of the phrase, remember the Alamo, as a way of celebrating bravery and the fact that some things are worth fighting for and dying for, and that's in Texas. And there's a reason why I'm mentioning the Alamo, because Texas had the highest number of COVID-19 cases today, beating out California. California was number one for our last 2 days. So in honor of Texas and Alamo, let's hear this song, Remember the Alamo.
Remember the Alamo. 180 were challenged by Travis to die by the line that he drew with his gun when the battle was nigh. Any man that would fight to the death cross over, but him that would live better fly. And over the line went 179. Hey, Santana, we're killing your soldiers below, that men wherever they go will remember the Alamo. Oh, he died, but his powder was ready and dry. Backbone killed him a few in reply. And young David Crockett was singing and laughing, gallantry fierce in his eye. For God and for freedom, a man more than willing to die. Hey, Santana, we're killing your soldiers below, that men wherever they go will remember the Alamo. Then they sent a young scout from the battlements bloody and loud, with words of farewell from a garrison valiant and proud. Grieve not, little darling, my dying, if Texas is sovereign and free, we'll never surrender and ever with liberty be. Hey, Santana, we're killing your soldiers below, that men wherever they go will remember the Alamo.
So I hope you'll remember the Alamo. And during Korean War, a lot of Korean Christians died because they had the spirit of Alamo, courage and bravery and willingness to fight and die for what they believe in. For example, my mother's father, my maternal grandfather, was a big Christian pastor, one of the most important Presbyterian ministers in Korea. And he was targeted by the communist North Koreans when they came down on June 25th, 1950, because he's a Christian pastor, and communist North Korea persecutes Christians. They kill Christians. Communists generally hate Christians and want to kill Christians. And Marxists, Leninists tend to be very anti-Christian because, Karl Marx said religion is the opium of the masses, and they tried to get rid of religion. And that's what liberal progressives try to do in America as well. Liberal progressives tend to be Marxist, socialist, although they may not say it. They tend to operate from that vantage point. And they seem to share the hatred of Christianity and religion that Marx and communists have. So when North Koreans came down to South Korea, they had a blacklist of Christian pastors that they wanted to kill. My mother's father, being a very important Korean pastor in the capital city of Seoul, was on the blacklist. And he was betrayed by a deacon in his church who told the communist North Koreans where my grandfather was hiding out. So he was arrested and then he was killed. And his name is Reverend In-sun John, or in Korean, John In-sun Muksa님. So last name is John, first name In-sun, Reverend In-sun John. And even today, in Korea, they have a memorial to all the Christian martyrs who were killed by the North Koreans during the Korean War, because North Koreans were communists who hated Christian religion. And so my mother's father is remembered in that list of Christian martyrs from Korean War. To be a Christian means you have to be willing to die for your faith. And throughout the 2,000 years of history of Christianity, a lot of Christians were willing to die for their faith. And in some ways, the willingness to fight for Christianity and the willingness to die for Christianity has been seen as a marker of a true disciple of Christ. Because if you are a true disciple, you are willing to die for your Christian faith. And that goes all the way back to the original first 12 disciples. All of them were killed by the Roman democracy because they refused to agree that all the religions are equal. They did not believe in the liberty of all religions. They believed that Christianity is the only true religion. And Roman democracy, being a democracy, said that they had to accept all religions as equal and all religions as being right. Or you have to respect all religions. And Christians were not willing to do that. Christians said, we only bow down to one God, and that is Jesus Christ. We do not believe in other gods or idols. And so basically Roman democracy said, you do not believe in equality of all religions, therefore you're enemy of democracy, you're enemy of the state. So the Roman democracy arrested Jesus' apostles and killed them because they were violating the concept of equality that's inherent in democracy. As I've explained to you before, Christianity does not believe in equality of all races. And we know this because God chose Jews as his chosen people. and thereby making a racist decision. And we also know that in the New Testament, St. Paul teaches a runaway slave, Onesimus, to go back to his slave master and continue to be a slave and to obey his slave master as if he were Jesus Christ. And obviously, during the Roman times, slaves were treated as property. So Onesimus was treated as property of his slave master. Nonetheless, St. Paul of the Holy Bible told Onesimus to go back to his slavery and obey his slave master and function as a property of his slave master. So certainly the New Testament does not believe in equality of human beings, because slaves were property, therefore they were not equal to their slave master. So Christianity does not believe in the concept of equality that the democracy emphasizes. Unfortunately, in American democracy, there are people who confuse Christianity and democracy, but they're not the same. During Jesus' time, there was a democracy and emphasis on equality of all human beings. Jesus Christ did not agree with that. St. Paul did not agree with that. Peter did not agree with that. New Testament does not agree with equality values of the Greek Roman Empire, democracy. And so those Christians who think that equality of all human beings is a Christian concept, you're absolutely wrong. Christianity does not believe in equality of all human beings. It never has. And true Christianity will never believe in the equality of all human beings, because that is not part of the Bible. Declaration of Independence is Declaration of Independence, right? That's not the Bible. So don't confuse Declaration of Independence with the Bible. Bible has always been racist. It chose Jewish people as chosen, God chose Jewish people as a chosen race and told Jews not to marry any non-Jews because they wanted to maintain Jewish racial purity. So Bible is a racist document because it emphasizes racial purity, concept of a superior race, chosen race, and that's just part of the Bible. And God does not consider racism as sin. God doesn't consider slavery as sin. And so you could be a KKK member and be a great Christian and go to heaven without any problem. You could be a member of the Aryan nation and be a great Christian and go to heaven. You could be a member of the Black Lives Matter, which is a racist organization that elevates black race and hates white race. I mean, I'm simplifying it, but that's what it boils down to. And as I've said in this show, I fight for all the black people who want to be racist against white people. You have the right to have freedom of speech, but I also fight for racists who are Aryan Nation and KKK to believe what they want and to say what they want, especially when they're with each other. It's not sin to be a racist. So black people being part of Black Lives Matter and being racist against white people, that's not sin. White people being a part of KKK or Aryan Nation and being racist against black people, that's not sin either. So, in a sense, that's fair, right? I'm saying that black people have the right to be racist against white people, and that's not sin. But in the same way, white people have the right to be racist against black people, and that's not sin. So I think I'm being very fair and equitable in making this statement, because what is good for the goose is good for the gander. And more importantly, that's what the Bible supports. The Bible doesn't consider racism as sin or slavery as sin. As I've said, I personally am very happy that God decided to make an exception of black people in America and free them from slavery. But that doesn't change the rule that slavery is not sin. So no true Christian should say slavery is sin, because once you say that, you're opposing the Bible and you will go to eternal damnation in hell. Because the Bible is very clear that you're not supposed to change any words in the Bible. The Bible doesn't consider slavery as sin. So if you change the words of the Bible and say slavery is sin, then you're going to eternal damnation in hell. You're making yourself into a God, standing against the word of God, which is the New Testament. You may not like the fact that New Testament supports slavery, Old Testament supports slavery. Well, tough luck. If you want to go to eternal life in heaven, you have to accept the fact that this is how God thinks. And that's what New Testament teaches. Now, obviously, if you're a black person who was a slave, I could see why you are upset. People have different experiences. They're upset about what they perceive to be an injustice. I assure you, white people experience injustice as well. It's not just a black thing. And white people who experience injustice, they're upset about that too. It may be for a different reason. But what I'm trying to say is human experience is filled with injustices, and no race has a monopoly on suffering. Everybody suffers. And we do need to recognize that, because that's the fair thing to do. So it's not right for black people to think that white people never suffer. That's not right, because all people suffer. But as I said, I support the First Amendment, freedom of speech, and that's one of my big platforms. And so I will fight for your right, Black Lives Matter, to be racist against white people, without using violence against them or burning police cars, destroying property. That's just wrong. That is sin, because when you destroy property, it's like stealing, right? So that is sin. Slavery is insane, but burning police cars, that's sin. You're not supposed to steal from other people. When you burn other people's property, you're stealing from them. But anyway, yeah. But as long as you're not burning police cars or looting, you have the right to hold to your position that Black Lives Matter. You have the right to think what you want to think about white privilege, which is obviously a racist attitude, but you have the right to be a racist as a black person. I defend the right of all black people to be racist and join Black Lives Matter. In the same way, I defend the right of all white people to join KKK or Aryan Nation, because that's your right under the U.S. Constitution. And so, yeah. So I'm transparent with my positions, or I am fair because I'm defending the rights of black people to be racist against white people, like with Black Lives Matter, and I defend the right of white people to be racist toward black people with KKK and Aryan Nation. So I think I'm fair. I've always said Black Lives Matter is a racist organization against whites. I've always said that. I personally support some of the ideas in Black Lives Matter, like, trying to seek empowerment of black people. I think it's a good thing that black people are proud of their race and want to elevate their race. And if they want to use black racism, black nationalism to that, I have no problem with that. And I'm a teacher of 100% of my students are black, in a black neighborhood in Anacostia in Washington, D.C., Ward 8. And I want all of them to be empowered. I have no problem with them joining Black Lives Matter or other black nationalist organizations. By definition, nationalist means racist, right? If that helps them to stay away from drugs, or that helps them to feel pride of themselves as black individuals, yeah, more power to them. Obviously, do not forbid white people's right to join KKK or Aryan Nation, because white people have their white nationalism, and they have the right to that, just like black people have right to black nationalism, like Black Lives Matter. So my position. As I've said, I want to be perfectly transparent with you. I want to create a society that is fair and just. I don't want a society that is devoid of racism, because that's like saying, I want a society where there's a fairy godmother. It's impossible. Everybody has racial prejudice, regardless of what race they are. Black people have racial prejudice against white people. So I'm not going to work to create a raceless society. Alexander the Great tried it. He failed. In Greek democracy, Roman emperors and Roman democracies tried it. They all failed. They tried to marry each other, different people of different races to create a raceless society. They all failed. Everything you're trying in America to create a raceless society, everybody has tried it already in history, again and again, and they've always failed. So what you're trying to do is useless. Society will always be racist because that's part of human nature. And you're not only wasting energy, you're wasting tax money. And that's kind of stealing from American citizens. So you should stop. Stop trying to create a raceless society. It's not going to happen. You're just going to waste money. So what is more important is to create a fair society for everyone. Not talking about race. Talking about race is useless, pointless, useless. It doesn't help the process to create a fair society. So Heerak Christian Kim, and that's who I am, independent candidate for U.S. Congress in Virginia's 8th District. I am here not to create a society where racism is destroyed, because racism cannot be destroyed, because racism is in the heart of every human being. Blacks are racist against whites. You can't destroy racism because it's part of you. It's inside of you. You can't destroy it. Black people are racist. White people are racist. Asian people are racist. Everybody's racist. But we can create a society where there's fairness and justice. And that's what I strive for. I don't want to create raceless society. I don't want to destroy racism because it can't be destroyed. It's like saying I want to create fair godmother. It can't be done. And I'm a historian, as you know. I've taught history at UCLA and at Brown University. I've studied history, and I've seen how great people have tried to destroy racism. They have all failed. It cannot be done. So let's focus on energy to create a society that is fair. See, I tried to do something that is a SMART goal. It's an achievable goal. And so we can create a society that is just. But the more we talk about race, we're not going to get there, because you get bogged down on concept of race. You will never get to justice. So let's just ignore racism. People are going to be racist. Ignore racism. Just focus on justice. Fairness. For example, with George Floyd, I don't think anybody should have any knee on anybody's neck, regardless of what race. So let's not make that into a race issue. And I think it's horrible that some black racists, Black Lives Matter is a racist organization that hates white people, obviously. That's why they keep talking about white entitlement, right? Because they hate white people. I'm just going to speak it like it is, And I said you have the right to be a racist. Black people have the right to join black racist movements, black national movements like Black Lives Matter, but don't try to act like you're all holy and better than thou, because you're not. Black Lives Matter is a racist organization, and I say, if you're a black person, you want to be proud of your race, join a black racist or black nationalist organization. More power to you. This is a free country. As long as you're not engaging in homosexuality, which is a crime against God, according to Romans chapter 1, you can join anything you want. Just in the same way, white people can join KKK and Aryan Nation. More power to you. If that makes you feel better about your whiteness, hey, we want a society where people don't have mental illness. And that's going to be more achievable, letting racists be racist, than trying to force them not to be racist. You're going to create a society of people filled with mental illnesses, right? Because you're trying to change them into things that they're not, that they don't want to be. So you're going to create a mental illness. So fighting racism creates mental illness. So leave things be. Let white people celebrate their whiteness among white people in KKK meetings. Let black people celebrate their blackness in their Black Lives Matter meetings. That's great. We reduce mental illness by having these people enjoy their identity. They're not going to have identity confusion. A lot of problems in America among the young are created because of gender confusion. They're like, am I a boy or am I a girl? Am I a boy or am I a girl? Am I a boy or am I a girl? This confusion during teenage years ends up in a lot of teenagers attempting suicide, some actually succeeding in suicide. Public schools in America have so many lesbian, gay, transgender, um, bisexual, queer people as teachers. I think it's a good thing that COVID-19 happened and all the schools are shut so that these gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, queer teachers won't be able to brainwash America's young children in public schools, creating confusion of gender, thereby creating mental illness among teenagers in America, whereby they commit suicide or homicide. We know a lot of public school teenagers ended up committing mass homicide, right? Because they're so confused about their identity, their gender, because all these liberal, progressive, pro-LGBTQ public school teachers in America, in all 50 states, are dedicated to homosexualizing the American public school system and creating mental illness among teenagers by confusing their gender. These boys don't know if they're boy or girl. Of course, it's going to try to commit suicide. Why is that an irrational thing? A perfectly normal boy of age 20, 12, would live a perfectly normal boy's life if it weren't for a public school teacher in the 9th grade who's telling him in the English class that maybe he's a girl, that he should try a gay sex or a gay lifestyle or consider possibly having a sex change to become a girl. If he did not have English teachers telling him this in his 9th grade English class, he probably would not commit suicide. So I would say 80% of mental illness of middle school and high school teenagers who are confused about gender. And in psychology, for the longest time, they had a technical term for this diagnosis. It's like gender dysphoria. Like they don't know what gender they are. So it's only recent that because of the political lobbying of LGBTQ nation, that America's public schools have become havens for aggressively brainwashing middle school and high school teenagers in gay and queer ideology, especially because a lot of teachers are gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, queer. And so it's good. I think it's a good thing that COVID-19 has shut down all the public schools because it gives our society, America, some time to step back from all the gay empowerment and LGBTQ ideology in America's public schools to brainwash our children's 12-year-olds, 13-year-olds so that they are confused about their gender. So I think shutting down all the public schools is a good thing because now these children don't have to be confused about their gender. In America, about 2 million people homeschool their children. And most studies show that they are the highest achieving students and most socially adjusted and with least amount of mental illness because they learn a traditional curriculum at home and they're not brainwashed with LGBTQ nation ideology that America's public schools are unfortunately pushing in the classroom. So Heerak Christian Kim, independent candidate for U.S. Congress in Virginia's 8th District. I think it's a positive thing that we shut down America's public schools and then reclaim America's children for America's parents. Over 90% of them do not want their children to experiment with gender identity. Like no father wants their son to consider having a sex change to become a girl. Now, if he doesn't go to a public school where a queer teacher, English teacher, is trying to persuade him to consider sex change, he will never consider sex change. So public school in America does far more harm than good for the children. Unfortunately, that's the reality right now. Obviously, public schools can do good, but we need to take out pro-gay, lesbians, transgender, queer, bisexual ideology out of public schools. We need to take out LGBTQ agenda from public schools. We need to take out rainbow flags from public schools. We need to fire principals and superintendents who want to normalize LGBTQ and transgender in America's public schools. That's what we need to do. Because all these pro-LGBTQ educators in District of Columbia public schools, Arlington County public schools, Alexandria City public schools, Falls Church public schools, Fairfax public schools, they want to fire Christians who follow Romans 1 and oppose homosexuality. So if you are in Fairfax County, which is aggressively pro-LGBTQ, unfortunately, they try to brainwash your children to consider having a sex change or consider the possibility their gender is not the gender that they're born with. And that's the kind of thing that Fairfax County Public School teaches officially to their children. They force their children in Fairfax County Public Schools to read books that discuss these issues, thereby creating mental illness among the children of Fairfax County. Because they get confused, because they have to read these pro-gay, pro-transgender books, because their English teachers who are forcing them to read them for class. So are you not surprised why there are so many children in Fairfax County with mental illnesses? Because the teachers give them books and force them to read books that question their gender. It's psychologically damaging for a puberty child. There should be a law created in US Congress to forbid any public school from forcing any child from reading any gay, transgender, queer, bisexual books for class. So vote for me, Heerak Christian Kim, for US Congress in Virginia's 8th District on November 3rd, 2020, and I will do that for you. I will save your children from the claws of Fairfax County Public School administrators, superintendent, school board members, teachers, principals, assistant principals, who are trying to make your children consider having a sex change to become another gender. And English class teachers who force your children in 8th grade, 9th grade to read gay sex books so that they consider having gay sex themselves. Right? They're only children. I mean, they shouldn't be forced to read books like that before they're 18. But there's growing realm of gay, lesbians, transgender, bisexual, queer literature targeting 8th, 9th graders to convert them to gay way of life. And this is going on with every publisher in America, Penguin Books, every major publisher. It's a serious problem. And you may not know about it because you've been too busy working, but while you're working those 40 to 50-hour weeks, your children have been brainwashed in Fairfax County Public Schools to consider trying out gay sex at age 12, 13, 14, because the English teacher is forcing them to read gay sex literature, gay romance, as they call it. This is happening to you and your children in Arlington, Alexandria, Falls Church, and Fairfax County. Why do you think there are so many children experimenting with gay sex at age 12 and 13 now in America? It's because of the public school system. So you have to consider COVID-19 shutting down of all these public schools as God's gift to you personally. Yeah, because now you can teach literature to your children, and you're competent to teach literature to your children if you have a high school degree. Because everybody who has a high school degree can teach anybody without a high school degree, right? You're competent enough to do that. So you should consider a blessing that God has shut down all these public schools throughout the United States of America, thereby stopping the gay, transgender, lesbian, bisexual, queer indoctrination and brainwashing of your children. You should be thankful to God. This is God's blessing to you. Because you can monitor what their English teacher is teaching you on Zoom, right? You could video record it with your cell phone, and if they teach any pro-gay, pro-queer, pro-lesbian stuff on Zoom, you can always sue them in the court of law and maybe get some few $1 million out of it. But when your child is in school, you can record them, right? They're like in the pond, that in the little fish bowl that the teacher has created. So you don't know what they're teaching your kids. They may be teaching your children to become gay or have sex operation, right? You don't know what's going on because you're not in the classroom. And so it's good that now, all the public schools are closed down. Parents in Arlington, Alexandria, Falls Church, and Fairfax County can be relaxed because your children are not becoming indoctrinated in gay sex, considering sex change in a public school. I mean, you should consider that as a blessing. And you should not lose this opportunity to reform public schools and take out lesbian, gay, transgender, queer, bisexual indoctrination and brain washing from public schools. As you know, in Arlington, we have a special election for Arlington County Board. And there's a Republican running, Mr. Cambridge. As far as I know, he's against LGBTQ ideology. And if that is the case, I would encourage all of you, even Democrats, to vote for Mr. Cambridge, because we need to bring America back to God. We need to bring Arlington, Alexandria, Falls Church, and Fairfax County back to God. This is absolutely wrong for public schools in Arlington, Alexandria, Falls Church, and Fairfax County to teach that transgenderism is something that you must consider at the age of 12. It's absolutely wrong. Do you think that that's right? That teachers force your 12-year-old children to read gay sex, gay romance books at age of 12, so they're trying to persuade your children to have their first sexual experience with their best friends who are same gender when they're 12 years old? Do you think that's a good thing? There's a lot of confusion during puberty, and America's public schools are adding to the confusion of the adolescent teenagers when they need guidance, when their sexual identity at birth should be affirmed. There are these LGBTQ, what I call Satan worshipers, trying to confuse your children about their gender, trying to confuse them about their sexuality, trying to confuse them about romance, try to confuse them to the extent that they try sexual experimentation with their friends of same gender at age 12 and 13. And do you think that this is a right thing that's happening? Do you think that this is a normal thing that you should support as a parent? Are you kidding me? This is why you need to vote for Heerak Christian Kim for U.S. Congress in Virginia's 8th District, Arlington, Alexandria, Falls Church, Fairfax County, because you don't want your children to have sex change. You don't want your son to cut off his penis and convert it into a vagina. Do you? That's why you need to vote for Heerak Christian Kim, independent candidate for U.S. Congress, because I'm telling you the facts. We need transparency. Public schools in Arlington, Alexandria, Falls Church, Fairfax County, they're trying to hide stuff from you. They're trying to brainwash your children and hide facts from you. And is that fair to you as a parent? That you don't, that they hide this kind of LGBTQ indoctrination that's going to destroy your children's minds? And there's no transparency about it. Is that fair? I don't think that's fair to the parents. As an educator and as a politician who wants to end corruption in politics and in society and in education, I provide you with full transparency so you know what's going on. I am here to say, let's not corrupt the minds of children before they're 18. Even before their first sexual encounter, these queer, gay, lesbian, transgender, bisexual teachers do not have the right to try to to lead the children astray into experimenting with things that they would regret with for the rest of their lives, that will mess up them psychologically for whole life. I'm saying that's just wrong. There are certain things that should not be read at the age of 12, like gay sex literature, transgender literature. 12 years old, even before some have entered puberty, these literature should not be read. Do you agree? If you agree with Heerak Christian Kim on this, then you should vote for Heerak Christian Kim. It doesn't matter if you're a Democrat. It doesn't matter if you're Republican. It doesn't matter if you're independent. It doesn't matter if you're green, whatever the party you are. The question is, what do you think is the right thing to do? If you think it's the right thing to do to forbid any children under 18 from being exposed to this immoral literature of gay sex, considering sex change, then you should vote for Heerak Christian Kim. There is a difference between children's literature and adult literature. But because there are LGBTQ teachers and principals and superintendents and school board members, they're trying to bring in these kind of sexual literature from over, gay sexual literature that they read into the realm of 12-year-old literature. There are teachers who write gay literature targeting 12-year-olds during summer because teachers don't teach during summer. And that's a serious problem right now in America, this proliferation of transgender literature, gay sex literature that is specifically targeting 12-year-olds. So you didn't know that, did you? This is why you need Heerak Christian Kim in U.S. Congress for Virginia's 8th District to tackle the important issues that matter to you and your family. Aren't you glad that I created the show, COVID-19 Update by Heerak Show, so you are aware of what's going on in Arlington Public Schools, Alexandria Public Schools, Fairfax County Public Schools, and Falls Church Public Schools? Aren't you glad that I created this show to provide you with transparency? Yes, this is going on in Arlington Public Schools, Alexandria Public Schools, Falls Church Public Schools, Fairfax City Public Schools, Fairfax County Public Schools. It's going on right now. Right now. Well, not right now because we have COVID-19, which is shutting down the schools so your children are saved from the claws, evil claws of these LGBTQ teachers in America's public schools who are trying to convert your children to LGBTQ. So thank God for blessings. Harry's looking at me and he's nodding. He's agreeing. He's agreeing that it's evil for these LGBTQ teachers to try to convert children into becoming LGBTQ at age 12. Yeah, see the disapproval in Harry's eyes? So when we talk about remember the Alamo, where do you fit in the spectrum of righteousness in America? Are you going to take a stand, like stand at Alamo and say, remember the Alamo, remember the Alamo, and be willing to stand for righteousness even if there is no chance of victory? Or are you not truly a red-blooded American who doesn't want to remember the Alamo? Remember the Alamo. Now, as you can see, COVID-19 death is proliferating tremendously. Yes, it is true that New Jersey had doctored or hidden their figures, and they decided to be honest about their figures. So some of the figures are kind of from the hidden numbers of New Jersey. Some of the governors are trying to reduce the death rate just to look good, because they fear election. But that kind of corruption is unnecessary. I'm glad that Governor Phil Murphy of New Jersey came clean with the figures. But all those people did die from COVID-19, and many of them in the 24-hour period. And so that's an accurate number of how many people died. And it is a testimony to maybe how many people are currently dying per day that's not being reported. So you should be very concerned if you are a US citizen. As you know, I'm a whistleblower, and I blow the whistle, and I give high five to those who blow the whistle on the LGBTQ transgender ideology. I give air five. Obviously, because of COVID-19, I don't want to actually give you a high five, but I will give you an air five across the Zoom for every one of you who are using social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, other social media to bring attention to the LGBTQ ideology that is spreading through America's public schools, including Arlington, Alexandria, Falls Church, Fairfax County Public Schools. I give you air five across Zoom for all of you who are dedicated to bringing awareness, being the whistleblower for the evil that is going on in America's public schools, trying to destroy our children's future, trying to destroy their mental health, trying to get them to commit suicide because they're so confused about which gender they are. I give you air five because you deserve a high five, but air high five because it's COVID season. So, yeah, we need to be transparent. So I am thankful that Governor Phil Murphy decided to be honest and release the figures. But that is the number that you should see as becoming more and more normative. We had that number in April. We will have this number again in the summer on a regular basis. But today we have a sharp spike, but that could be the normal number in July. So get used to it. So let's just say, because there are these actual deaths, some of them were reported later, but because we go by figures that are reported, so in the 24 hours, these are the number of deaths by COVID that were recorded, right? So they might not have died within that exact 24 hours, but they died from COVID sometime. They haven't been recorded yet. So in the last 24 hours, we have a recording of 3,827 people who have died from COVID. So that can still be considered as 24-hour period death because their death was recorded at that time. You could die in a hospital until the doctor comes and declares you dead. You're not legally dead. So let's say you died on Monday and the doctor doesn't come in until Thursday to declare you legally dead, then you're still not dead until Thursday, even though you're technically dead on Monday. That's how it works in the healthcare system. So I think it is safe to say, using the healthcare protocols of today that's in existence throughout the United States of America, we can talk about this as a death during 24 hours, because that's the death that was recorded in the 24-hour period. So in the last 24-hour period, we have recording of 3,827 deaths. These are actual people who have died, who have never been reported before, who have died from COVID-19. So yesterday we had recorded total death from COVID of 121,969 deaths. 24 hours later, we have recorded death total of 125,796. I encourage every governor in all 50 states to report deaths from COVID that you have not reported yet. I know some of you are hiding it. That's corruption. And as I give high five to all the whistleblowers, I hope that people in every health department in every state will blow their whistle and let us know if the governor or health department officials are hiding death by COVID numbers. Because we need transparency in America. Heerak Christian Kim is the anti-corruption candidate. So Heerak Christian Kim gives high five to all whistleblowers who are reporting on corrupt government, trying to hide facts from their citizens. I give you air high five. So the total reported cases have gone up as well. On June 24th, there were 2,380,452 reported confirmed cases. And 24 hours later, we have 2,452,567 reported cases of confirmed COVID-19. So they haven't been reported before. So obviously you got to report. Ideally, you report it right away. But if you report it 2-3 days later, we can't count it with the numbers from 2-3 days ago because we've already counted up the total. So we have to count it up with the total from today. So that's what's happening. Now, I'm going to discuss 5 top COVID-19 cases in Asia, just as a way to compare what's going on in America with what's going on in Asia. As you know, Heerak Christian Kim, that's who I am, independent candidate for U.S. Congress in Virginia's 8th District. I have said that spiritually speaking, in light of the Holy Bible, in light of the New Testament and Old Testament, COVID-19 killing so many people in America, spiritually is a testimony or represents God's punishment of Americans for violating Romans chapter 1. You've heard that from me, have you not? I provide you spiritual explanation because, as I have explained before, I believe in cura personalis. Cura personalis is the theme of Georgetown University School of Health and Nursing Studies. And it's a Latin phrase that means the whole person. So in the context of School of Nursing and Health Studies, cura personality represents this idea that we need to treat the whole person. We need to treat the person for their physical conditions, mental conditions, social conditions, emotional conditions, and also spiritual and religious conditions. And it goes back to Jesuit history. As you know, Jesuit history is a long history. It lasts hundreds of years. And Jesuit priests were very important missionaries in the Catholic Church. Jesuits played a very important role in spreading Christianity around the world. Jesuits risked their lives, and many Jesuits actually were killed during their missionary work, trying to convert people of other religions to Christianity. So Jesuit history has a long tradition of sacrificing self to share the gospel, which is showing God's love to people of other religions, to try to get them to become Christians so they could have eternal life. So Jesuits, many of them actually were medical doctors or had other skills. And these priests were using their skill sets as medical doctors while delivering the gospel and missionary work. And Jesuit tradition is very respectable in that regard. You should read books on Jesuit priests, like missionaries in China and India. Amazing. So I'm very proud to be associated with the Jesuit brothers at Georgetown University. I'm grateful that I've gotten to know Vice President of Missions and Ministry, Jesuit priest Bosco. And as I've shared in this show, I intend to work with Friar Bosco and Jesuit brothers at Georgetown in providing cura personalis, nursing care and healthcare in inner city and rural areas, because my long-term goal is to create church-based healthcare centers that meet the health needs of inner city and rural areas, people who don't have access to healthcare, that based on their socioeconomic situation or immigration situation. So I look forward to doing that. Right now, obviously, I'm getting training, and training also through my experience. So I'm applying for hospital jobs. Today, I had several interviews for nursing positions in hospitals in Washington, D.C. and Northern Virginia areas. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed, and you know, I believe that God will send me to where He wants me to go. He will send me to the people that He loves the most, because that's what God has been doing throughout my life, sending me to the people that He loves the most. So obviously, I just want to go where God wants me to go, and I trust God. But I, you know, as a human being, I'm very optimistic and hopeful. You know, that in every interview that I have, I'm successful. You know, and so you know, we should all try to be best in what we do. And I've achieved a lot, as I've shared with you. I have 3.5 GPA, which is an A minus GPA at Georgetown University, master's program in clinical nurse leader, cohort 2020. And there's 25 of us, so I'm one of the 25. So I want to just say congratulate all my core members, you know, because we've worked so hard for 2 years. Oh my gosh, we worked and worked and worked. And we started out with like 34 people, and we're now down to 25. So you can imagine how difficult the program was. It definitely is worth it though. So if I have to do it again, I would do it again. It's a great program. And as I've shared with you, I like the fact that Georgetown is a Catholic university. And, you know, I got to work with Jesuit brothers, and I consider that as a very important part of my experience at Georgetown. And I hope to share this friendship rest of my life with Friar Bosco and other Jesuit brothers that I met at Georgetown. I hope to work with them to meet the needs of inner city and rural people in this area, around this place, that need you know, healthcare. And of course, we want to provide the gospel for them too. So, I'm thankful for my experience at Georgetown, getting to know and meeting a lot of good Christians at Georgetown. And there are a lot of good Christians at in the nursing school as well. So I'm thankful I got to befriend some nurses and future nurses at Georgetown who are great Christians. I hope to develop my friendship further with every one of you. And I'm sure you're watching because everybody watches this show. But yes, I want to develop, you know, a better friendship with all of you that I have become friends with. But I have to say, because I've been in clinical nurse leader program for 2 years very intensely with my fellow class of 2020 members, you know, I have a special place in my heart for every one of them. I consider 25 of you like my family, and I love all of you. And I'm sure that you think of me as your family member as well. So I just want to say congratulations to you. You did it. I did it. We did it. Congratulations to the class of 2020 CNL at Georgetown University. Yay. So, yeah, so I hope you guys are getting a lot of good interviews as well. You know, right now I'm interviewing, as I said, I've interviewed with a couple places today, and hopefully everything works out with them as well. And then, yeah, so I'm very excited. You know, if you want to ask me questions, you know, please feel free to. I'm always open to helping you. You know, I've said it before, but I'll say it again here. I'm here for you. So if you need, you know, someone to bounce off ideas with or get some ideas on, I'm happy to share my experiences with you and recommend you places, you know, that I feel you would like. Yeah, so, and you know, once I become hired as a nurse, I intend to try to recruit a lot of good people from CNL 2021, who's graduating next year, to the hospital. And you know, I want to be an encourager, and being a leader means helping people to succeed, and that's a very important part of what I believe that I want to do. So I want to help Clinical Nurse Leader 2021 core to succeed, and if I get to know Clinical Leader 2022 core members who are entering this fall, I want to help you succeed if you're watching this show. So you know, helping each other is an important thing, and it's not just at an objective level, but at a personal level, right? Like helping people find a job, to get a job, things like that. That's kind of an important part of what leadership is, in my opinion. So yeah. So let's look at the top 5 list in Asia. India has 473,105 cases. and they have 14,894 deaths. So their death rate is 3% smaller than America, but the rate of cases are rising, so the rate of deaths are rising. It's just inevitable. Um, I am really worried about India. I was sharing with my friend Sunil. He's an I guess he's like a chief executive officer at Innova Health. I think it's Innova Health. It's like yeah, like it's around here. he's a he's a board member of Fairfax County Public Schools. So he has a very hands-on approach with the community, and he was the vice president of University of Pennsylvania Alumni Association of not United Kingdom, Washington D.C. I am now the vice president, so I'm kind of like his successor. Um, so I went to Sunil's home in Fairfax County. It's amazingly big. I'm like, man, Sunil, this is like the best I've seen in Fairfax County. Oh my gosh, it's like a mansion. But yeah, so hi Sunil. Yeah, I contacted him today about his family in India. I was saying like I hope his family in India is okay, because death in India is going up with COVID-19, and so I'm worried about him. Yeah, he's home is in Maryland. He went to University of Pennsylvania Wharton School, and he went up like Wharton School produces a lot of important leaders. So he went up the, I guess, corporate ladder all the way to the top of Innova Health, which is like really impressive. 'Cause he's really, really young. I think he's really, I think he's still really, really young. So he has a whole future ahead of him. So I'm sure he'll do a lot of important things in the healthcare industry. So I'm really excited about your future, Sonal. But it's too bad, there's so many fun events that were planned. Soon was gonna speak at one of our events on healthcare, at Penn Club of DC. But we had this COVID thing, so we had to cancel the healthcare forum where he was gonna speak. I mean, I was like, I socialize with Sunil, like, we talk and we kind of shoot the breeze, but I've never really, been in an official professional setting with Sunil, and at this forum, he was going to take his, CEO hat at, Innova Health, CEO hat, and kind of give his spiel on healthcare. So I was kind of interested, in this forum to see him, kind of in that official position talking about healthcare. So I was kind of looking forward to it. It's a little awkward to talk like shop, social event, because, I mean, geez, that's like lame when you're talking shop. When you're trying to have fun. And Sunil is like a cool guy, So he and I, we just shoot the breeze, talk about women and about vacations and trips, So yeah, Sunil's a fun guy to hang around with. But yeah, but I was kind of looking forward to like this forum where who like take his official Innova Health CEO hat and talk about his take on healthcare systems. And so, yeah, I guess I should try to, like, once this COVID thing dies down a little bit, maybe like get together with him and just kind of, talk about those things. Since I'm like an expert in healthcare now, graduating with a very intense clinical nurse leader master's program. So I'm sure he'll be interested in hearing some technical stuff that I have to share on healthcare. And I would love to hear what he has, yeah, so maybe we should do that. I don't know. I mean, we're so used to just like hanging out and having fun, just chatting away about nothing, I know about how to make Penn Club of DC better. So it would like be a little bit, awkward to talk about healthcare and stuff like that, but hey, I guess we could do that at some time. Well, Lisa Katzman, she's like, her husband created a company, CEO. Her husband's like CEO of a, IT company, consulting company that, does like multi-million-dollar consulting for healthcare systems all over America. Lisa, I think she's living in, she's in Vienna, Lisa Katzman. So she's like, her husband's the founder of the company. She's, I guess, like what, market manager. I mean, she gave herself the title, it's their company. So I saw her daughter actually, like, Nutcracker, Penn Club of DC had a Christmas Nutcracker event that I organized, and Lisa Katzman came with her daughter. She's like, was a freshman at Syracuse University. I think she went to high school in Vienna. And now she's a sophomore. I think she's a sophomore now. Yeah, she's sophomore. And she went to Europe, I think, for like a summer abroad, But and she and her mother, just like mother like daughter, It's like really cute to see them together, So I actually took a photo with them. Yeah, maybe I should share that photo with you sometime. But yeah, Lisa's great too. Lisa Kotzman. She was going to be one of the panelists as well. We had some important panelists. We have all these important healthcare people. Uh, in Pen Club DC, it's kind of like a blessing, So Lisa Kotzman, she's like a board member. Sunil was the vice president of Pen Club of DC before, the position that I'm holding now. And we had like some CEO of some big important healthcare company that we invited as well. That President Todd, he's like a business guy, like his buddy from Warren or something. Big CEO, big shot CEO of a healthcare company, some big healthcare company. So yeah, so we were putting this thing together. Basically, it's like putting things together with like people who went to school with, part of the Pen Club. They're like the movers and shakers of the healthcare industry in America. Who'd have thought? Isn't that like weird? When you go to college, you don't think about it. But when you go to like an Ivy League college, like University of Pennsylvania, it always turns out that like your friends and people you hung out with end up doing like really, really, really amazing things in society and become CEO of this company, that company. They're like movers and shakers of American society. And it's like a little freaky because it's like, you just remember like the college days when you were like 17, 18. So, you knew them before they were like CEO of this big company, So like when I see Sunil, I don't look at him like, oh, CEO of Innova Health, but I'm sure like in his professional setting, everybody's like, we're not worthy, I'm sure they do that, but, I just see him like as a, like a Pen Club of DC buddy, So I don't know. Life is funny like that, But yeah, Lisa Kotzman's like an important person in her industry. And I invited, the Genevieve Morris. Genevieve Morris was the CEO of VA Hospital, Veterans Affairs IT sector. And she started her own company, Integrated Health or something. All these people like to start their own companies, for a reason. But she's like the CEO of her company that started. And yeah, she was going to be a speaker as well, along with Suno and Lisa and Lisa's husband and Todd's big shot CEO friend who's like CEO of a healthcare company. Yeah, it was going to be a great talk. We President Todd had a place reserved, Penn Biden Center for Diplomacy. That's our building. That's where Vice President Biden has an office and teaches, when he's not running his campaigns. Yeah, so we're going to use that as center, and then we're going to invite Penn alumni from this area, and a lot of them are like really important people. It's funny because like they're so important, but yeah, they're people. I just see them as normal people. So I don't know. Yeah, yeah. I mean, you can't be too serious about this thing. I mean, geez, life is. If you're too serious about life, you're not going to enjoy life. Look at me. I'm enjoying life with my manga images behind me. Hey, I'm like having the, I'm doing what I want. I'm enjoying my life. Are you enjoying your life? I mean, life, you're going to live only 100 years. You got to do what you want. Love the person you want, marry the person you want, have children with the person you love. I mean, that's, I mean, geez, Lisa Kotzman, her daughter is really nice. She's very happy to be a mother. She loves her daughter. She loves her husband. I mean, she's gotten everything, and Sunil as well. Sunil has a nice wife and children who go to India often to visit their relatives there. And Sunil is an amazing guy. I mean, like all these happy people, they know what's important in life, And, I, I like to have fun. I enjoy life. Harry's like, I think he's agreeing with me that he thinks that I'm enjoying life. I am enjoying my life. You see me every day. You see me every day on this show, enjoying life. So anyway, yeah. So yeah, don't let life pass you by. You only have 100 years to live. And if you're a Christian, you go to eternal life in heaven, so it's worth it. But if you're not Christian, then you go to suffer in hell forever. I mean, just make the best of 100 years before you go into torture chamber of Satan. Yeah. I mean, geez, life is too short to be like not having fun. You know what I mean? You gotta have fun in life. Don't take life too seriously. You know, like, I studied at best places in the world, right? I'm studying at Georgetown. And I'm having fun at Georgetown. I go to the parties, I go to hobnob and socialize with people. But there are some people who are like really uptight, especially like these like State Department, like foreign service type of people. They're like so serious all the time. And I'm like, my gosh, I mean, geez, how can you live like that with all that seriousness every day? My gosh, geez, that must be stressful just to live your life as a serious person, like State Department, foreign diplomat, foreign service, serious person. Geez, line up, dude. Read some manga literature. Manga literature will relax you. Yeah. Complementary and alternative medicine, manga literature. Yeah, I mean, talk to anybody who's enjoying manga literature. They're not doing dope. They're not drunk on alcohol. They're just reading manga literature. It's nice, clean fun. Yeah, that's why I say it's complementary and alternative medicine. CAN, CAM. Yeah. So number 2 is Pakistan, is 192,970 cases, and the death rate is at 2% lower than India. The number of deaths is at 3,903. And Bangladesh is number 3 with 126,606 cases, and they have 1,621 deaths. So 1% of the cases are ending up in death. China has 84,687 cases, and the death is at 4,641. 5% are ending up in death. And Indonesia has 50,187 cases and 2,620 deaths, which is 5%. So as you know, COVID-19 isn't that bad in Asia, because in Asia, they kill homosexuals, like India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, China, Indonesia. All of those nations kill homosexuals. And that's the right thing to do. And they don't just kill them like a mob. Well, sometimes they do. But they have a system of law that actually executes homosexuals. And this is the right thing to do, because the Holy Bible says homosexuality is a crime. Romans chapter 1 is very clear on that. So those 12, 13-year-olds out there who are considering experimenting with homosexuality because your teacher, English queer teacher, forced you to read queer literature for your class, don't do it. Yeah, I mean, this show is actually targeting adults 18 and over, but in case you're like sneaking in and watching this show, don't do it, because Bible considers homosexuality as more evil than killing, first-degree murder. There have been events in history where people killed without thinking because they've never been taught that killing is wrong. But then they feel guilt. Because, the law of God is written in everybody's heart. It's written in nature. But there's a certain amount of socialization process going on. So people are socialized into keeping the law. So if you grew up in a nice middle-class white neighborhood in the suburbs, you will be socialized to keep the law. So you respect the police, you keep the law, and if the police stops you and wants to arrest you, you just kind of go like this and get arrested. But you may not have been socialized in a white middle class neighborhood. In which case, if the police says, stick your hand out so I can put the handcuff on you, instead of doing what they're asking you to do, like what a typical white teenager in white neighborhood do, a black teenager in inner city may start running, or may try to take a taser from the police and run, because they haven't been socialized into proper behavior in that kind of situation. It's about upbringing, right? if you're in a poverty setting and, your mother is working 4 or 5 jobs just to survive, obviously, most likely you're not properly socialized because the mother, single mother, who's working 3, 4 jobs, doesn't have time to socially, like kind of bring you up right. And that is not a condemnation. I don't want you to be offended. Maybe you are. If you are, too bad. I'm just going to tell the truth. From my perspective, you disagree with me, you're angry, turn this thing off. I'm not trying to offend you, but I'm pointing out the obvious. If you don't have time to educate your children, then your children will not be educated. As you know, I'm a public school teacher, and I've had talks with many teachers, many parents. Let me tell you about an event in Emporia, Virginia, when I taught 6th graders social studies at Wyatt Middle School in Greensfield County Public Schools. Because the state prison of Virginia is in Emporia, some of the parents of the children are lifers at state penitentiary for having killed multiple number of people. And several of the students that I taught are in gangs, and their parents are in gangs, because gangs are not just for teenagers. They're gangs that are for adults as well. So, I talked to some of their parents, and obviously I treat every single parent with the respect that they deserve. But there are also some parents who may not, be criminals or, convicted felons who kill people, who may be socially, kind of struggling. So I have one student, and I treat all my students with respect and try to love them, care for them, and help them succeed, give them moral compass so they don't do drugs or drink alcohol or engage in risky sexual behavior, anything like that. So I try to guide them in the right direction because, teaching children has to be a holistic thing. Cure our personalities. It's not just about imparting knowledge. So, so I call up the parents because, sometimes I need to talk to the parents. And the parents are like, well, I have work, but I could probably swing by for 30 minutes, kind of get a break from my employer. So she comes to talk to me, and she's wearing, I guess it was like a Domino's pizza outfit. And apparently she works for a minimum wage at Domino's Pizza. So it's like, like in suburban neighborhoods, generally, like teenagers work that kind of job, right? Domino's Pizza job is like for teenagers who work for minimum wage, so they could get like skateboards and stuff like that, or bikes. But she's like this grown woman with like 4 children or so, and one of her children is in my class, and she's working for a minimum wage job. And so she's working there, and she just popped over for 30 minutes to talk to me, and then she's popping back. And she was telling me, I have really a difficult lifestyle because I have like 3, 4 jobs to support my, children. I think her husband is in the state penitentiary for killing many, many people. So anyway, there are single mothers who they don't have the time to really, go through everything with their children because they're having 2, 3 jobs. So you can't really blame them, but that's what poverty does to you. When there's a lot of poverty, there are things that obviously, parents want to do that they cannot just because they don't have the time to, because they have to have 2 or 3 jobs to put the food on the table. So you can't really blame them, but that's why it's a good idea to try to break the cycle of poverty by helping the children get educated and then find better jobs than their parents. And you want to improve the families as well, because if their children can end up making a lot of money, they could support their mother and father as well. And I teach them that they should support their parents in their old age. But anyway, so you talk to the parents, and you try to like kind of help them out, and the children out as well. But it's it's not easy life, you know. Life is very, very hard for a lot of people. I mean, I've taught mostly African American students, so I'm most familiar with that the socio-economic environment of inner city, you know, working class demographics or unemployed, SNAP food kind of demographics. But life is hard. You know, they're good people. You know, I have high respect for them because they're good people. Um, who many of whom are active in the church, and so I have high respect for them. But you know, it's hard life. You know, yeah. But anyway, it's people people are different based on where they are. You know what their socioeconomic status is. So if you're like an African American teenager growing up in an inner city and no one has told you, like, if the police stops you and wants to arrest you, just put out your hand. If you have any complaint, just complain afterwards. If they haven't been socialized into that, they're not going to do that. They're going to run, and they're going to act in a way that, you know, where they're going to get shot. And so, um, you know, I know that there are a lot of people on TV, activists, who blame the police, and I see where they're coming from. And I'm, you know, because I teach African American students in inner city, so I know what the perspective is and what their experience is. So I understand where they are. But I think sometimes some individuals don't always try to look at it from the perspective of white police officers, right? It's their job, right? If a teenager, 15-year-old is like, you know, selling, you know, cocaine on the street as part of his gang activity, and I have students who are part of gangs who do things like that. I tell them not to do it, obviously. Uh, but if the police comes and they arrest them, they're just doing their job, right? It's not like they hate the guy, hate the boy. It's just they're doing their job. And if the student runs or takes out a weapon, then they're going to be shot. And it's tragic and it's sad, but it could happen. And I'm not saying that every time somebody's arrested, they're a criminal. Because sometimes they're not criminals. But there are also times where there are criminals. So you can't say every time that a police officer tries to arrest a black person, he's never a criminal. You can't say that either. So you have to deal with realities here, right? If the police officer has as his job arresting people, and if he's trying to arrest you, probably it's not a good idea to run. You know, you can use a lawyer to fight the system or fight inside the system, but if you try to run, you may get shot. And you can't say that's the fault of the white police officer because he's just following his duties, right? He's supposed to arrest people who are dealing drugs or committing a crime. And if they try to, use a weapon or run away, then he has to use measures to stop them. And so there are these rules that the police officers have to follow. And their life is in danger because, my 8th grade students had guns, when they're in gangs, I mean, it's not like they don't have guns. And so they could use it, obviously. So, all I'm saying is we need to work on society issues in a holistic way. We can't just talk about race and racism. That's not necessarily the problem, right? People like to talk about that because it's an easy topic to talk about. But the more difficult topic are like economic problems, unemployment issues, chronic absenteeism by students, and the socioeconomic factors that causes it, failure of the educational system to address these issues. These are what's more important than racism. Because as I said, you could talk about racism until you're blue in the face. It's not constructive. It's not going to change the society for the better just because you're talking about it on TV. People are not going to become less racist because you pass a bunch of laws. They've tried that in history many, many times. They've always failed. But we can create a more equitable and just society, a fair society for everyone. That's not focusing on like race, because you can never solve a problem focusing on race, because everybody's a racist. Yeah. So anyhow, maybe I'll talk more about this issue at another time. But for now, I want you to just kind of mull over that. That maybe the way to save African American children in inner city is not by fighting racism, but by helping them be successful in school so that they can, live a good, decent life, form a decent family with decent children, have a good Christian church-going life. Maybe that's the life that can bring them happiness, wealth, and social equity, far more than fighting racism per se. And I think people who fight racism, they're so kind of in their box, in their tunnel vision. They're so committed to that vision that you gotta destroy racism to make Black people's life matter. They're not willing to look at any other views. And I think that's tragic. There's a reason why African American slums have existed since emancipation till now, right? And I would argue that a large part of that is this idea that we got to destroy racism to make lives of African Americans better. And that's just not true. There are minority communities in Indonesia and Philippines, such as like the Chinese minority community who came from working class, low class Chinese society in China, who have worked hard and become very successful businessmen. They've experienced racism because Indonesians are not Chinese. And I've talked to my Indonesian friends, and like my friend Sucianto, who majored in computer science, was ranked #1 in computer science when he graduated. Went to Carnegie Mellon for PhD and ended up marrying a white Baptist girl. And he and she were missionaries to Jordan. And he's now a Christian pastor. He went to Westminster Seminary, became a pastor, and a full-time missionary with his wife, who's also a missionary. And they're with WAC International. It's like a Baptist missionary organization. So they're kind of missionaries in Arab countries, like Jordan specifically. But yeah, I mean, Chinese minorities, and they didn't have any education level, but they go to Indonesia and they become successful minorities. So these things do happen. It can happen with African American communities, but I think we need to kind of shift the direction a little bit in a direction of success. We got to set up African American children for success. And I think fighting racism just make them into tools. Just think about it, all these white Democrats, they're using this as like a political tool to win elections. Does that improve lives of African American children? I don't know. I mean, the future is still not written yet, but for the past several decades, maybe even over a century, it hasn't really improved the lives of African Americans that much. And so that's why I'm saying, if you keep fighting racism, you may become a political weapon or tool that white Democrats use. But it's another form of slavery because they're using Black Democrats to win elections for white Democrats. So you're not getting any money out of it. You're just kind of being their slave, a political slave. You see what I'm saying? So for me, I would like to see African Americans succeed and reap the joy and the fruits of their labor for themselves, not give to other people, right? Why should Black people fight so hard against, so hard, and then all the white Democrats reap all the benefits, and the Blacks in inner city get nothing? I mean, I think that's unfair. So I want to create a way so that African Americans in inner city can enjoy 100% of their labor, right? And I'm saying that that's not going to happen by fighting racism, because you can never destroy racism. So we need to focus on individual success of individual students that will position them to enter the middle class, position them to enter white class jobs. We have to shift the focus from fighting racism to providing support for success of the students for the next generation, because there's a cycle of poverty that we have to end. And that's not going to end by fighting racism, because that's been going on for decades. It's not changing too many. It's not changing much. And certainly it's not helping the inner city Black communities become more economically viable. So what I'm saying is let's not focus on racism, fighting racism. That's not really helping the inner city. But let's focus on things that's actually going to help the inner city. That's what I'm saying. Actually help the people who live in the inner city individually, right? Because what good is it if like society talks about racism, but you don't come out of your poverty? What good is that? You see what I'm saying? So let's focus on trying to improve individual lives of real people, not just fight these meaningless ideological wars that have no real meaning, and worse yet, no real outcome, positive outcome. Yeah. So it's a lot of talk and really nothing happens. Because that's just the way things are with racism. It's always existent. And you talking about it, it's not going to change it. We need to actually work on helping children become successful, inner city African American children to become successful. That's what we got to focus on, because there is real promise for the future. That's the way you're going to get rid of inequity in society, through individual success. And I think that's where HBCU can come in, historically Black colleges and universities, because I think the original founders understood that principle. I think in the recent times, they've kind of lost the original vision, and that's tragic. And I say this because if you look at the CEOs, like all the successful Black leaders in America, many of them are graduates of HBCU. They say HBCU graduates are far more successful than Harvard, Yale, Princeton alumni who are African American. Yeah, I mean, that's what they say. I mean, I haven't done a like thorough study of it, but yeah. So number 3 is Bangladesh, as we have said. Number 4 is China with 84,687 cases, and death is at 4,641 cases. It's like 5%. And Indonesia has 50,187 cases, and the death rate is at 2,620. So that's like 5%. And as you know, I am fighting LGBTQ nation, which imprisoned Kim Davis for being a Christian who loves Jesus and who wants to follow Romans chapter 1. And I've shared with you yesterday that there's LGBTQ nation that's trying to imprison Christians in America, deprive them of their jobs, demote them. And there are professional organizations that are trying to create code of ethics to be used to punish Christians who follow the Bible. And so yesterday I've sent out a call through this show for you to combat these evil forces in society that try to destroy Christianity. And I've reiterated my campaign promise that if you choose me and you vote me in as your congressman on November 3rd, 2020, to be congressman for Virginia's 8th district, Arlington, Alexandria, Falls Church, and Fairfax County, I have made a campaign promise that the first thing I will do is to legalize homosexuality. Second thing is to legalize abortion. Third thing is to set up an infrastructure to create social equity. And I've shared some of my vision with you. And I'll share more details with you in the future. I'm doing some high-level doctoral research on inner city education as well. So I'm very serious about actually improving the lives of African Americans in inner city. And I believe that my solution will work. And the solution that's been used for the last 100 years have failed, as we know. Yeah, so vote for me. If you're Black American, white American, Hispanic American, Asian American, you should vote for me because I hold the key to America's future success and equity. Okay? Yeah. So vote for Heerak on November 3rd, 2020 in Virginia's 8th District for U.S. Congress. Now, it is sad but true that we are definitely in peak 2 of wave 1. So we're still in the first wave of COVID-19. Dr. Fauci describes us being in the middle of the first wave. I wouldn't go that far. I would say we're still in the beginning of the first wave. Because if you remember, most scientists are arguing that this could be forever. Like HIV started and it's never ended. And there is no vaccine for HIV. Same with hepatitis C. Hepatitis C started a long time ago, and there's no vaccine for hepatitis C. You can get it just by having sex with somebody who has hepatitis C. So you should think of COVID-19 as something like that. But the difference between COVID-19 and hepatitis C is COVID-19 is, it's like a respiratory. Well, yeah, it's respiratory. But yeah, so it transmits just by people breathing on you. Hepatitis C transmits by sex or you sharing a needle, you know. So it's harder to transmit hepatitis C because unless you have sex with somebody with hepatitis C, you're not going to get it. You're not going to get it by people just breathing on you. But COVID-19 is different. People can just breathe on you and you can get it because when every breath has a molecule, and on these molecules, breath molecules that you can't see, COVID-19 will be riding on them if you talk to people who are infected. That's how you get it. These molecules enter your nose, your mouth. That's why you wear a mask, so these molecules don't enter your mouth and nose. You see why you're wearing this mask? Yeah. So let's look at the 3 articles that are very relevant for today. So there are 5,000 cases that 3 states are experiencing. And these are the 3 states with the most number of cases. So number 1, we'll start with number 1. Texas has nearly 6,000 new COVID-19 cases today as Governor Abbott pauses reopening. So Texas stopped reopening because of rising COVID cases. And this article was found in K Houston by Doug Deloney. And the quote that's relevant for today is, with 5,996 new coronavirus cases, Texas sets a new single-day record for the 3rd straight day. So Texas realizes that they have to shut down. So saying that, excuse me, I'm gonna just get some more soda. But saying that they're stopping reopening is same as saying that they're shutting down, right? So that's kind of equivalent. Differently expressed, but they're equivalent. So, so the process starting. So what I am saying here in this show, and I think it's correct, is that March to May, we had a first peak. And then we had stay-at-home orders throughout the country. So the peak went down. But then we start opening up, and then the peak went up again. So now we're in the second peak. And then if we shut down completely again, it's going to go down again. So that will be the end of second peak. So I'm thinking first peak was March to May. Second peak has started in June. So eventually we're going to shut down like we did in the first peak, and then it's going to go down. So end of the first peak, I'm thinking will be like August. And then people are going to get a little bit more comfortable and try to open up again. And then we're going to start seeing a third peak. And that's going to be like September to December. And it's going to coincide with the flu season. So that's when most number of people will die. I'm predicting that as many as 1 million people will die per month during the flu season, height of the flu season. I'm hoping that I'm not correct, but I think I'm correct. Make sure you get a flu shot, everyone. Get flu shots. They generally come out in August. You could get it from CVS, Walgreens, pharmacy, or your primary care provider, but definitely get your flu shot. But I have to warn you, even if you get your flu shot, it's not 100% protective. They said it's like 80% protective. I actually got influenza A in March, and I had my flu shot last year, August. So Yeah, sometimes flu shots don't work, but it's better than nothing. Um, so Texas is number one today. In the last 24 hours, they had 5,996 new cases. Number two for today for COVID-19 new cases is California. California, they kind of dropped a little bit from yesterday. They were number one yesterday with over 7,000. But today they have like in the 5,000s. But it may go up again to 7,000. We don't know. We'll have to see tomorrow. It's kind of interesting, though. We can kind of follow the statistics. It's like, collecting baseball cards. Um, so the article title is California Coronavirus Update. Governor Gavin Newsom reports that 25% of new COVID infections happened in past 2 weeks. What does that tell you? Past 2 weeks, these are all George Floyd infections. George Floyd infections. People protested during George Floyd. Yeah, that's 25% of new COVID infections. Yeah, past 2 weeks. Or, yeah. Now, the relevant quote from that article is, California Governor Gavin Newsom reported 5,349 new corona cases on Thursday. That's down from the all-time high of 7,149 just the day before. Yeah, so it came down, but still very high. It's the second highest COVID-19 cases in America, right? It's California. So I'm thinking like California may actually have 1,000 COVID-19 deaths per day at some point in the summer. I think California is headed to where Brazil was, where they had like 1,000 people die per day. And I think California is headed there. As many of you may know, California is very similar to Brazil in terms of climate, and there's a lot of similarities. And so, it's even demographically, there's a lot of people who are of Latino descent. So, you may not be surprised to see 1,000 Californians die per day during summer, unfortunately, but looks like that may happen. Number 3 is Florida, and the article is has the title Florida tops 5,000 new COVID-19 cases again, and that was in the Ledger, written by Joe Egelhart. And the relevant quote from there is, as more and more places in Florida require masks, the stream of new coronavirus cases continued to surge Thursday with more than 5,000 new cases recorded statewide for the second straight day. Yeah, so it's bad. In honor of Texas, who is number one, I have a lot of things about Texas here. So there is obviously Houston, we have a problem. NASA space program. Houston is famous for that. And the phrase Houston, we have a problem. That's, I'm sure all of you know. And Dallas Theological Seminary is in Texas, and it's considered one of the best Baptist type seminaries in the world. A lot of Korean preachers go to Dallas to get a master's or PhD because they respect the theologians there, because they're conservative evangelical theologians. Underneath the Dallas Theological Seminary picture is Alamo, and that was during George Floyd protests. You have these National Guard members guarding Alamo so people don't destroy it or set fire to it. Yeah, history is important. You don't want to lose your history or artifacts from history. And obviously, Dallas Cowboys have made Texas famous for football lovers. People love Dallas Cowboys. People hate Dallas Cowboys, but nobody's neutral about Dallas Cowboys. And obviously, Dallas Cowgirls may be more famous than Dallas Cowboys. They're the cheerleaders who are beautiful, and they tend to be ladies who are nice with etiquette. and they embody like femininity and female sexuality that many men desire. We don't know what will happen in the future, but that's historically been the perception of Dallas Cowgirls. And obviously, Texas is famous for rodeos um, and barbecues and riding on the bull, like rodeo type. So, yeah, Texas is a state that is filled with mystery and glory and honor and history. It's a glorious state, and it's sad to see uh, Texas hit so hard by coronavirus. I hope the Christians in Texas will oppose homosexuality and gay marriage, because that's the way to make God happy. You have to make sure there are no pride marches. You suppress all rainbow flags. Remember what I said. Homosexuality is not protected under the First Amendment because homosexuality is a crime. Bible clearly says it's a crime. In the history of United States law, it's been treated as a crime from the very beginning of our nation, even before the beginning of our nation during colony days, until just recently, it's been treated as a crime because it is a crime. Yeah, the Supreme Court justices are absolutely wrong. It is a crime. So, yeah. So anyway, I'm glad that you had this chance to join my show and learn something new about COVID-19 and history and other interesting and important things that can enrich your life. So I'm happy that you stopped by. And now you know we're in the second peak of COVID-19 that's going to kill a lot of people. And so I hope that you will be very careful so you don't die. But as I said, I expect about 1 million Americans to die by end of August. So my recommendations to you, obviously do what you want, but my recommendation is that you stay at home. Do not invite any friends to your home. If you want to talk to your friends, do it on Zoom or telephone or through email. Do not physically invite any friends to your home. That's the way you're going to get COVID. Yeah, talk on Zoom, talk on phone, talk on email, or text each other. So yeah, so that's my recommendation. Just go outside for exercise and try to avoid people. And if you're shopping for food, obviously you need food. Make sure you wear a mask and don't talk to people if you can. If you do talk to people, make sure there's a glass pane in front of you or that you're like over 10 feet away from them. Yeah, be careful. You gotta, even with all these measures, you could still get COVID, but obviously you have higher chance of not getting it. So that's why I'm giving you this advice. So I hope you will take it. Yeah. And also because we have this COVID-19, I'm recommending that all the colleges close down for fall semester 2020 because we don't want to be creating a cataclysmic situation where more than 1 million people die per month. That could happen. Yeah, opening up colleges is the quickest way to kill our young people. We don't want to do that. Do you want to do that? Yeah, so let's not do that. So all the colleges should close down for fall semester because we are officially now in second peak. It's the responsible thing to do. It's the ethical thing to do. From the public health nursing perspective, it's you gotta do that. You have to close down the campuses because people are gonna get COVID, people are gonna die. When flu season hits, a lot of people are gonna die. So you have to close down the campuses. Just have your classes online. We have the technology to do that, so why not use it? Right? We're not living like 50 years ago where we couldn't have online learning, right? Now we can, so just use it. What good is technology if it's not used in times when we need to use it to protect human life, right? Yeah, so I hope that all the colleges will be ethical, closed down, and of online learning. We have the tools to have online classes, so let's use that. Let's protect life so people don't die. I think that should be the priority. What do you think? Yeah, so thanks for stopping by and listening to my wisdom. As you know, I'm the Leonardo da Vinci of 21st century. A person like me comes around once every 500 years. So you're very lucky that you're in the decade when Heerak Christian Kim, the Leonardo da Vinci of 21st century, actually has created this show. So you're very, very lucky and fortunate. You're part of history. Yeah, so I hope that you will tell your friends, neighbors, coworkers, adult children, parents, cousins, uncles, aunts, um, godmother, godfather to watch this show so that they also can survive COVID-19. And I'll look forward to seeing you tomorrow. I'll bring more information you need to survive COVID-19. I created this show to save you and your children from COVID-19 and everything else that happens around it. And I'm going to bring you explanation from physical health, mental health, psychological health, emotional health, social health, spiritual health, religious health, theological health. And because I operate from cura personalis, treating the whole person, cura personalis. So I look forward to seeing you tomorrow, and you can have more of this wonderful cura personalis treatment from Heerak Christian Kim, independent candidate for U.S. Congress in Virginia's 8th District. So I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Bye.